Hello and Happy New Year. Welcome to the first episode of 2024 of the Great British Mickey Waffle, the podcast where we celebrate all things Disney with the occasional and quite varied British accent. I'm your host Ben, and today we'll be taking a look back at some of the highlights of the last year for Disney, in the parks and beyond. Then in the spirit of moving things forward, we'll take a peek into the future to see what's planned for the year ahead. The sliding doors of your time machine will close automatically, so for your safety, please keep your hands, arms, feet and legs inside the vehicle as we slowly rotate backwards to the very beginning of 2023. Joining me today for our look back of 2023, I'd like to welcome my fellow wafflers, Becca.
Hello.
John.
Happy New Year!
Happy New Year, John. Claire.
Indeed, it is 2024, and I have refrained today from wearing my 1980s style Dayglow fluorescent Disney 2024 merch that I've seen everywhere. It's really quite special. I don't know if you've all seen it.
It really does.
It reminds me of 1987, maybe. I know that's before.
I was going for about 86. A touch of Nick Kershaw, Duran, the Thompson twins, all this, you know.
It's exactly that. And there's a hoodie which has got 2024 across the chest, but it's got bat wings. It's amazing. It's bright yellow. I've spared you that this evening.
It reminds me of, I think, a couple of years ago, Universal Studios did a relaunch of their merchandise because I think they'd been open for
They just rolled it round again.
And it literally was the similar design. It looked horrific. Something that you wouldn't have.
I'll be honest, I don't like any of the year date stuff they ever release, so this is a pretty new to me.
2024 is a unique choice. It's a bold choice.
Right, okay.
I think we've escaped with the calendar, though. I don't think the colour scheme's not far off, but it's not as fluorescent.
Yeah.
So I'll cope with that. And last but not least, we have Jill and Peter.
Hello.
Hello.
Can I say I am far too young to remember the 80s?
Yeah, sure.
Well, the 1880s.
Yeah.
Oh, Ben's on fire. That's it.
Ouch.
There you go, Peter.
I feel like that's how the show's going to go.
We're going to be talking
That sort of
rather than talking about the late 1900s, as I heard referred to recently.
God.
The late 1900s.
I mean, it's accurate.
Oh, dear.
But terrifying. Peter, did you have one of those global hypercolour t-shirts?
No, I had several double-breasted shirts, which was the fashion
What?
I went for.
Double-breasted shirts?
Yeah. With a row buttons here and a row buttons here.
Oh, what, like cowboy style?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
I had several of those.
Do you still have them, Peter?
Again, a bold choice.
No.
What's even more terrible is we're about 2 years away from the late 1900s being 30 years ago.
Yeah, thanks, Becca.
Yeah.
That's
Thanks.
Appreciate
terrifying.
Yeah.
This sounds a lot of
Really
maths
appreciate
for
that.
this early in the episode.
It's early in the year.
That is true.
Peak too soon. That's it. We're done for now.
So maybe we'll get the rest of the year off.
I still do wear a t-shirt and a button-down shirt because you can take the boy out the 80s. You can't take the 80s out the boy.
Yeah.
It was all t-shirts and ordinary shirts.
Yeah.
That it was.
And fluffy, I'm thinking new romantic style. Or were you not your bag?
Did you?
No.
I bet you had a mullet as well, Peter.
Double-breasted shirts would be
The
romantic.
mullet haircut.
No, I didn't.
The Bono
No, I didn't.
look. That's what you wanted.
No.
Right, Waffle's arms.
I set a challenge for everyone on the show today. Obviously, we're excluded. But if you have pictures from yourself in the 80s,
Oh, yeah.
please share.
Yeah.
I might
When
be
you
able to
listen
come up
to
with
the show-
something.
Yeah, when you
Picture of
listen
my
to
mum
the show,
pregnant.
Yeah.
go into the Waffler's Arms, 1st of January. That's a perfect time to be doing something like this. Go
Yeah.
and put some photos of you in the 80s. Let's
Yeah.
see
If you
all
can
the
make it
rah-rah
from
skirts and...
If you can make it from 1984, even better.
Oh, crumbs, yeah. Rah-rah
Oh,
skirts.
Okay.
And,
Yes.
it'll be great.
I don't
Oh,
have my
dear.
rah-rah skirt anymore.
Don't.
All those
I'm
days
sure
are
you'll
gone.
get one on
Peter.
eBay.
Yeah.
Bonus points if there's a picture of you in the 80s in a Disney park.
I won't have
There you are.
those.
Bonus
I won't have one of
points
those, no.
if it's from 1984 of you in a Disney park.
Oh, that's quite impressive.
And we've got a scoring system now.
We have.
Wow.
Right,
For the 80s.
right. The Waffler's arms is
I
going to
think
be
it's
on
done
fire.
with
That's it. Yeah, that's
I
it.
bet you someone will.
Yeah.
I hope so.
I'm looking
I hope
forward
so
to
because
seeing-
it's absolutely
yeah.
brilliant.
And if anyone's wondering what the Waffler's Arms is, it's our Facebook community where we share absolutely anything and everything, as you could tell from 80s pictures to 80s in Disney parks to trip countdowns and anything else Disney fun that we share. So, as we all know, 2023 was a big year for Disney, celebrating its 100th anniversary of the Walt Disney Company. But it began with one of the moments where Bob Iger returned as CEO of the Walt Disney Company. I know it sort of happened in late 2022, but I think the impacts of it weren't felt until 2023. So, what do we think of Disney 100? I know we all. It's something that I think we all hyped up, and we wanted possibly a lot more of than what we got, which probably sounds a bit like Walt Disney World's 50th anniversary.
I think it's really hard
Yeah.
to do. I think it's really hard
Yeah.
to do anything new because if you've been in the Disney parks, you can do some overhauls. You can give Mickey and Minnie and the Fab Five new costumes. You can do a cupcake, but it's still the same place that we all love.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter whether it's iridescent or purple or Pepto Bismol pink. It's still Walt Disney World.
They've still got you through the gate. They've still got
Right.
you there.
Yeah,
It's
I
not
think-
like
yeah.
it's something to draw you there. It's
I don't think they had as many exciting things. So if you think back to like the year of Million Dreams, is that the right
Yeah.
term?
Yeah,
Yes.
it
Yeah,
is.
it was.
so.
Yeah.
And I
I'm
think that-
I'm racking my brains.
I'm trying to remember
when
which
was.
year that was.
Is it-
But
yeah.
they could have done something along those lines, I think, and that would have probably been a bit more of an impact rather than, the purpley white stuff we saw
Yeah.
everywhere. It's very pretty. I like, the new resort mugs. They look great. But as a guest, it didn't feel necessarily it was for me.
no.
Yeah.
It
But
was-
maybe that was the intention. Maybe
you
it was
could
for the
get
company.
a specialty popcorn bucket. I know we've got one. It's just over there.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things. Everyone has that different thing that they're looking for that gets them to Disney. If you already had a trip booked, it's just a bonus that it's going to be in the celebration of it. And I know that every time it started off in Disneyland, the 100th celebration, and every time that I would look on YouTube, there would be it'd be a new fireworks show, Wondrous Journeys, and I kept thinking, why aren't we getting something like this in Walt Disney World? Yes, I know we had Happily Ever After return, which Claire's seen, haven't you?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I suppose you could argue that Epcot got the new Illuminous
Eventually.
fireworks show eventually during that 100 year.
I like you called it
Yeah.
Illuminous.
Illuminous.
It debuted 5th of December, and I think, from what I've seen on YouTube, I think it's a very good show. But there's a bit in the middle that doesn't feel like it makes sense.
I haven't watched it. I'm
haven't-
withholding judgment until I see it in person.
Yeah,
I've seen bits of
Yeah.
it because Ben's watching it on YouTube, but I'm trying not to concentrate on it and focus on it.
but yeah, no, I think it's really good. But it feels a lot like Illuminations to begin with.
Yeah.
Just how it starts and also how it ends. There's just
That
a
can't be a bad
bit
thing.
in. There's a bit in the middle where it reminds me a little bit of Harmonious,
Well, that would make sense
but
in
in a
the
way
rain
that's
as well.
quite good. Yeah.
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 So
I think your question about the Disney 100, Ben, I think if I had been in the planning meeting, if I'd been around the desk and they were putting all the stuff on the table, my question would have been who is this celebration for? What's the purpose of it? Is it for the guests or is it for the company and the cast members?
Yeah.
If it's the latter, they hit it absolutely bang on. It was perfect. If it was for the former, maybe didn't quite
yeah,
land.
try harder next time.
I think
Good
there
effort.
wasn't enough yes. I think there wasn't enough nostalgia. It's supposed to be celebrating 100 years.
I think there was things that we,
nostalgia.
there's
But
things they could have done that they didn't, that I think we talked
Yeah.
about previously around things like Oswald meet and greet, Steamboat Willie meet and greet in Hollywood
Yeah.
Studios.
Yeah.
That would have been amazing.
So I will say, though, the non-park stuff that they did, nostalgia-wise, I felt that they hit the mark with. So the Disney
Once
100
Upon a Studio,
exhibition,
fantastic.
Once Upon a Studio, the Disney 100 concert, Wish,
The exhibition.
I mean, if you actually look at all the Easter eggs in Wish through, they've hit most of their animated
Phases.
phases. And I think there's probably an Easter egg for at least every animated film in there somewhere.
It's interesting how they hit the mark with a 10-minute animation for the entire year. I think the best way to sum up
Yeah,
Disney 100,
I agree with that.
I think, was Once Upon a Studio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
And of course,
I'm really
we had
struggling
our
with
very
this
own,
because I'm struggling with this because actually I agree completely with what Claire's just said, but are we actually in danger? And this isn't just Walt Disney World specific. Is we keep going for the 20th of this park, the 50th of that park, the 50th of that other bit. And actually, I think what's happened, probably subconsciously over time, is that when you hit 100, you've celebrated every other landmark along the way and twisted it as an advertising thing. And unfortunately, when it comes to 100, which it should have been the most glorious experience to actually be in the parks, everyone's just kind of gone, okay, is that it? And yeah, we were very fortunate. We picked up on the exhibition in London, which I thought was it that exceeded what I thought it was going to be. I will hasten to add. And not just because we all met together and things like that, but the actual exhibition itself was something quite spectacular to go and see. And I'm sort of, when you're in that position, it's like the start of a brand new year, and you're looking back as we are for this show, and you think, well, what is it? I still don't know what they wanted out of the 100. I think they basically went for, let's keep the budget really kind of quite low. Let's not go OTT like the Year of a Million Dreams. And that was absolutely a massive crowd puller. I'm left in there, and I'm not gonna, I know we've got other stuff we want to talk about, and I'll probably come back to this same point, but yeah,
John, I think you're right, actually. With the 50th, it didn't end for Walt Disney World until, was it end of March?
Yeah.
Where the Disney 100 in Disneyland started in like late December of 2022 into January. So it was like there was this crossover. We're celebrating like two celebrations at once.
And Epcot's 40th.
Epcot's 40th. And then it's like...
It became muddied, and it lacked that real cohesive approach. And maybe that's why I'm left frustrated and maybe left a little bit sort of... Are we all sort of numb? Are we just sort of... Is it too many...
Celebrations out.
Yeah. And let's go and enjoy. Let's enjoy the park for what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, are we just expecting too much? Have we all set our expectations too high?
I think that we actually have something within the Waffle itself. We did our Journey to a Century, and I think we did a pretty good job of that. And I think we should drop a little email to Disney Plus and say, hey, fancy putting that on Disney Plus? We've done your work for you. Because I found that really fun to do and fascinating, and I think we learned a lot. So
there's a lot of stuff that we didn't realise that from every decade that we went through. And there are going to be times where there are going to be celebrations, and the 100th is something like is to be celebrated. But I think there's been so many celebrations of other anniversaries, because I remember we were out there for, was it the 45th of Walt Disney World, and then it was the 35th. I remember them celebrating Epcot. Are we just having? Are we going to have a celebration every year just because it's his birthday?
Yeah.
What makes it? Should we just put a pause on the big celebrations for like 5 more years? I don't know when's that next time. What should
The next one will be Epcot 50th.
Yeah.
And Walt Disney World 60th, I suspect. Or it should be. Please don't do 45. 45 and 55. It's not necessary.
because they might as well do like 57 and 59 and
Exactly.
Tokyo do.
Yeah.
Tokyo bring out merch that says 39th anniversary. And
See, I think it's okay to put merch out, but I think don't have a huge celebration because we were there for Magic Kingdom's 45th. There was this big ceremony at the front and just saying how incredible the next 5 years were going to be. Little did they know what was going to happen. But yeah. So what have we covered? So
Disney 100.
Disney 100, Once Upon a Studio, one of the best things that you can go and find on Disney Plus today. But also we had Destination D23 at Walt Disney World. When was that? In September. And we got a lot of things. Well, we didn't get many.
We got things.
We got a few things, like Hatbox Ghost. We got a date, and that's now there at
it is there.
Mansion Magic Kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
Where did you see it?
I did. Saw it twice. Did it twice. Saw it twice. It's where the big curtain was when I was there in the summer.
Which means he's probably been sitting behind it since the summer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why they couldn't have brought him out for Halloween?
I thought they were going to open that ready for Halloween season. I think it's a shame that they didn't do it for the parties. Because that would have been another. I know they don't need to sell party tickets, but for Mickey's Not So Scary, they could have added. They could have had that as something. Yeah.
Even if it was preview for the parties and then opens on the 1st of November.
Right. Exactly. I think that just those evenings they could have, but they didn't. It's fine. It's a lovely addition. Thank you very much for bringing it along, but it doesn't. No. It's not the thing that's going to make me go and book a trip to Walt Disney World. Yeah.
I think it was originally announced in 2019.
Yeah, it was a long time ago, but it was. He's been walking, I think, from California, on his own, slowly.
That would make sense. But yeah, so there's been like the D23 the previous year, even more blue sky thinking, not as much clarity. We had a few sort of murmurs of things like Indiana Jones, Zootopia. We know Tough to be a Bug is going away. Let's all celebrate.
No.
This is good news. This is good news.
Very good news.
Tough to be a bug.
Oh.
And I think we might go a bit more in depth onto what we're thinking about the Destination D23 when we get to the 2024 stuff.
Yeah.
And we talk about D23.
This year's D23 was a lot about the parks around the world as opposed to the American parks.
You mean last year's?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Last year's. Last year's
D23.
That's always. Do you know, I always do that. Holy January happens every year.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Always right, 2023.
Yes.
It's like it's like that old check. You know, in the days of checkbooks when you always went to write the first few checks of the year, and you always wrote the previous year. But
yeah.
Don't worry, John. I'm not going to say what's a check. Yeah. You're fine.
Always.
But yeah, I mean,
you know what a check
we've
is.
Seen, well, we've not seen it, but Hong Kong Disneyland.
Yeah.
Their Frozen Land opened.
Yeah, World of Frozen.
Last year.
Very,
Makes it sound like Iceland supermarket. The frozen sausage rolls and the
It's that corner of the supermarket where all the frozen section is, isn't it? Like, that's it.
And it looks beautiful, and I'm sure that Paris is going to be very different, and I'm not sure that Paris's version is going to be as elaborate.
I hope it's going to be different, and I know that's not going to say from what I've seen, and I think it's beautiful to look at. My frustration with it, if anyone gets to go there and go on the ride of it's the sled ride, the sleigh one. It's literally a shortened version of Seven Dwarfs Mine Train.
And that's short enough as it is.
Shorter.
Yeah.
Yes.
Shorter.
Okay.
See, I thought you were going to say it's a shortened version of what's it in Cars Land?
Oh, Radiator Springs.
That would be very cool on a sled.
Yeah.
That would have been so brilliant.
But yeah, no, it's shorter than Dwarfs Mine Train Magic Kingdom.
Yes, it is.
So, and I think that's the thing. It looks great, and I'm wondering whether the space they've limited.
Yeah.
sort of the-
Hong Kong's a small
so,
park, so they've
Yeah.
done what they can with it.
Yeah.
And their version of Frozen Ever After looks a big improvement. So
Oh, okay.
again, here's hoping that Paris's version does as well.
That's probably really good actually, because I do find the one in Epcot a bit creaky,
Bit bumpy.
Already.
a bit bumpy as you
They've
go
gone
in.
for the latest generation of animatronics. So similar to the ones in Beauty and the Beast in Tokyo.
Yeah.
And obviously I've not seen them in person, but from looking on videos, they do look amazing.
Yeah.
I think things like that are an ever-growing situation, though, aren't they?
Yeah.
If you think when Frozen Ever After opened in Epcot, those animatronics, I can't speak, and the ones within Seven Dwarfs Mine Train were groundbreaking. They were really special when that first opened.
Yeah.
I remember, everyone raving about Sven's face, and I think we're how many years on since that opened? 7,
Yeah.
maybe 8. It might be longer than that actually.
That's what I'm thinking, Claire, as well.
2014?
Yeah.
Right.
It might be
I
10
think
years.
Claire, that's 10 years.
Gosh, is it really 10 years since?
Seven Doors Mine Train beat
Well, there'll
20.
be a pin badge for that
Wow.
this year.
So, but in those 10 years, the technology has grown and improved so much.
Yes.
So it's absolutely right that they use the latest thing. So it is going to feel, it's going to seem bigger, better, more exciting. I guess that when we look at the technology from Carousel of Progress, it's nostalgic and we still love it. So it's okay to use the new stuff and it's okay to keep the old stuff. I think that's one of the best things, is that you see this turnover and this growth across the park and the different snippets of when different bits of technology came out.
Yeah.
I quite like that because, the Tiki Rooms, the original animatronics, they still work in the same way. They're still brilliant.
Yeah.
They don't need changing, and I
They
think that's
don't
the
need
thing.
to change.
Disney are very clever, as I mentioned at the beginning.
And they
about-
don't set on fire.
Always the class.
It's always about like keeping things moving forward. So
Right,
it's
yeah.
using
Being able to
In
see
the
behind you
right
at the
way.
same time is quite nice.
Yeah.
See where you've come from.
and it's nice to know in that development. And when you think
That might be a good
Track-
title for the show, Ben.
trackless rides, when you think of like from Ratatouille to is it Peter and Joel, you did the was it Pooh's Honey Hunt in Tokyo,
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
and you can see with that, and then onto like
Rise.
And Beauty and the
Rise to
Beast as well.
Resistance and
Is
Beauty and
also
the
trackless.
how-
Yeah.
Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway,
yeah.
that whole technology is growing and improving.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. Definitely.
What else
And,
what else happened last year, Ben?
Shanghai had Zootopia as well.
Yeah.
There you go.
So
See, I wonder whether, because they've mentioned Zootopia an awful lot about Animal Kingdom, I always thought they're going to just do a copy. And Disney had that habit over the past few years of trying to copy things from other places around the world. And I wish they wouldn't, because learn from Tron. If you've got the same ride, don't take 6 years to bring it across to another park. It's one of those things. And I think we want a reason to go to that park. I want a reason to go to Shanghai. I don't want Zootopia in Animal Kingdom because I'd love to be able to go to Shanghai and do it because that's what it's for. I don't want them to bring Radiator Springs to another park because I want to go to Disneyland and experience that.
Yeah. Let's see what
I-
happens.
It's let's have they can have different similar ideas. Like I know we're going to get Frozen, possibly Star Wars at Disneyland Paris at some point. The way it works, that I think that they need to look at it and go, actually, we're going to do something that is different from anything else. I can't see them copying Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind into another park
No.
in the same format.
But they can use a similar idea. If you think about Toy Story Land in Disneyland Paris and Disney Studios,
Yeah.
that's been there for a long time, long before the Toy Story area in Hollywood Studios. And they've taken some of the ideas of that in terms of using Kinects for the fencing and, some of the thoughts, but they haven't replicated any of the attractions, but it has a similar feel. So I think that there is the opportunity to learn from what works and what doesn't work and maybe grow from there.
Talking of Toy Story Land, Roundup Rodeo barbecue
Yes.
opened. And I remember we spoke about that back in 2020.
Mm.
Have any of us been there yet?
I've been twice.
I was going to say, Claire's been.
Oh, cool.
I went in, must have been Easter when we were there before we went on the cruise. And then I went with Anna in December. And I would say that both experiences were really good. There is ridiculous amount of food. Just saying. When I went with the family, I had the plant-based meal and I got my own separate portion. If you are a table where there are 2 people, up to 5 people, they bring the same amount of food for 2 people that is the same amount of food for 5 people. So if you, like Anna was having the normal meat-based platter, she got a platter for 5 people because that is the size that they do.
Okay.
So
Nice.
I had an individual plant-based portion, and then she had a ton of food that there's no way she was ever going to eat, which I find a bit silly, a bit wasteful.
Yeah.
Doesn't really make any sense. You should have the option. They should have the option in the kitchen of doing an individual one, maybe, or even a platter for 2 or 3, rather than for like half the restaurant. And the portions are not small anyway, so all of the sides are the same size, regardless of how many people are at the table. All of the starters, the appetizers are the same size, regardless of how many people are at the table. So I think there's probably a lot of food waste, unfortunately, which irritates me because it's unnecessary. Yeah. But the food it really is very, very good.
So Disney, if you're listening, you know what to change. And I think it's one of those things. It's been on our list. We've not been there yet, but it's one that we'd like to try. And I have to everything I've seen of the food, not only does it look incredible, there's an awful lot of it.
The food's very good. I think it's worth the money.
For your money.
Yeah, I think it's definitely worth the money.
Which is why I think we're waiting to see if we go with anyone else.
Yeah,
to go there with.
Yeah, people. Yeah. It'd be a good
friends or family sort of
friends or family food stop. Yeah. And actually, it's somewhere decent in Hollywood Studios, which was sadly lacking. So
yeah.
Also,
talking of Hollywood Studios, you also got to experience Jollywood Nights.
Yes,
which was new for 2023.
Yes, it was. Yeah, it was good.
I think it will return this year, probably adapted. And I think they had quite a few teething issues. I remember on social media over the first couple of nights that there were a lot of long queues, or a lot of things that just didn't feel like the park was prepared for the amount of tickets they sold, about people that were in the park.
I don't think that was the issue. I think they just hadn't had a chance to test it.
And it was
first night. I think if you were to probably go back and look at the first Christmas party ever, how smoothly did it run? Probably not very. Let's think about the first day at Disneyland when the paint wasn't dry and the concrete was still wet. Things don't always work out the first time you do it. So I think there is going to be learning. I'm sure it'll be back. It'll be bigger. It'll be better. There will be some sort of freebie to make it worthwhile, because that's the overwhelming feedback that people have complained about. I hope it comes back.
If you went to the DVC, the Disney Vacation Club version,
they got. Yeah. I hope they do bring it back. I hope they don't ditch it. I hope they use the opportunity to grow it and to make it even more of a thing, and encourage people to dress up and do all the stuff that people were doing to feel like they were part of it. It's an interesting concept and a very definite different style of evening to the Christmas party, which variety is the spice of life.
And it's something when you pay a lot of money for a ticket, even just having a picture or something, a keepsake to take home for free at the end.
Yeah. So
just something.
All the photos are free. Everyone got memory make. You get memory maker for everything, regardless of whether you got it with your ticket or not. So that came with the ticket, so you could get every photo op in the place.
That's really good
for free.
I mean, if we're being honest, the only reason we know that there was teething issues is because of social media, anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is true.
So
absolutely.
Yeah, and talking of things that we'd like to be free and actually became free last year, hotel parking was brought back, so we didn't have to pay.
Not before time, Ben. Not before time.
I was ready for John to jump in there.
Oh, that was such a big thing, though.
It was out of the blue as well. It was like in February or March last year.
But it was. I think we started the show talking about Bob Iger and how that whole bit of Iger returning, and I think it sounds really stupid, but actually by recognizing how much ire this has caused amongst people who go, irrespective of which country you come from, you're basically annoying everyone who stays on site.
Yeah.
And it's just like, okay, we're going to give you the free parking back, but we'll put the hotel room up by about maybe $10-15 a night. You don't mind paying for the hotel room, but you do mind paying for the parking. And it was, again, it was like a magic trick, wasn't it? A little sleight of hand of, we'll give you this for free, but you'll pay a touch more for your hotel room. And people do. And I actually, when you go in, that's what you're paying. You're not having to go and find money every single day to go and park. It actually made good business sense. And actually, when it actually probably scored Bob Iger more points more quickly than any other thing. And I think as a CEO, when you come back in, you're looking at quick wins. That was one, and a quick win. And we'll take it. We'll take it. I quite like that bit.
I think it was those last 2 months of 2022 where we were just pushed too far. How much more money can we take? Magical Express had gone, parking for charging the hotel you're staying at, and it was that choice of like, if I use the buses, I don't have a car, but then I've got to get from the airport to the hotel. It was just making everyone's decision around trips that a little bit more complicated. I remember the days before the pandemic where we were just, that's fine. You book a trip to Disney, you've got Magical Express, you've got the transportation already organised. It's just one thing you wouldn't have to worry about. You wouldn't have to sort and organise. And it just made it, I wonder how many more trips, how many more people decide to stay on site when they did the numbers afterwards to work out that I can drive my car, I can hire a car, and I don't have to pay for the parking because I'm already paying for that hotel.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah. I think you're looking at a reason for people not to go when it got to that bit, and I think that is the bit where it became the Bob paycheck era, and where people were. I think people actually got to the way of feeling you were getting nickel and dimed for absolutely everything, but with less coming back that was there previously, and and hence the reason that Disney actually made that decision to move them on. And I think we've said this before, quite rightly so as well, because he'd lost the core customer and what the core customer was actually looking for. Yeah.
The free car parking is very good for Americans who would drive over. It's less good for Brits. Still, I wonder how many people actually do hire a car when they're out there, compared to those who do take the public the transport.
I think
some people do both.
Yeah. That's probably that split.
I've got to say, Peter,
it's interesting.
From our point of view, having gone, and we've never done Disney Express. We've always hired a car. The very thought of staying on site at Disney for even 3 nights, 5 nights, 10 nights, whatever, and actually having a car that was sat in a car park and having to pay for the privilege of not driving the car just negates any thought of that. And for me, it was pushing me much more towards, well, they don't really want me there. I'm paying for, if I stayed in a villa, I'd be paying for parking anyway to go into the park, so I might as well stay in the villa. And that's the bit that they hadn't really thought of. They thought everyone was going to remain really loyal to the Disney brand, and actually, it don't. Unfortunately, life doesn't work like that. And I think Bob Chapek found that out the very hard way, really, didn't he?
I think everyone's learning to do trips a different way, and I have to admit, we've experienced that last year. We hired a car for the very first time, and it's definitely changed our outlook. Because we've done 12 trips before where we've gone, no, I don't need a car.
Yeah.
And actually this time it's like, okay, our next trip, we're going to need a car for what we want to do next trip. Yeah. We were going to hire a car. And it's just how everyone will do their trips differently. There's no right or wrong. It's just you make your holiday the way it works for you.
Yeah.
Well, I don't drive, and Jill doesn't like driving, so
Yeah.
we are stuck
Yeah.
with transport,
Yeah.
public transport. Yeah,
But that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
That's the way you do your trip,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
But you're not
Totally up to you.
limited to now. What I mean is, it doesn't. If Disney
No.
got rid of that transportation, that would be an awful lot more difficult trip for you to do.
Oh, yes.
yeah, but you get free. You can get free parking of your car and can still do the free transport round Disney.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I still have to pay to get from the airport to the.
But we have to pay for a hire
Yeah, we
car.
have to pay for the car
Absolutely.
hire.
I don't get the equivalent of free parking.
Which costs a few quid, but we could maybe come to that at some point.
Yeah.
Do you know something, guys? I think it's a really good opportunity because I know for a fact it comes to January. You get all them, the I think we describe it as the Judith Chalmers effect, isn't it? All the TV becomes embroiled with. You need to go here, there, and everywhere, and everyone
Wish you went here.
Yeah, and
Right.
I've been put up with a Christmas where maybe things weren't as you expected. Your next thought is like, I need a holiday. Where are we going in the summer? So what I'm going to say is, if anyone's listening to us for the very, very first time, it's maybe a good opportunity to actually say some of the things we've discussed already will come up, not just in this podcast, which comes out twice a month, but also we do a live show on YouTube every single Wednesday, which we call Wafflers Wednesday. You can find us there. But if you are finding us for the first time, a big welcome. But also send us a message and things like that. We love to know where you're at, and if you're planning to go to Walt Disney World for the first time, that's even better because actually, we've been a few times. We love to talk about that experience, but the actual
Send us your
planning
questions.
and planning for the first time is the most overroaring experience because you're sitting there and you're thinking, well, I booked a flight, I booked a car, I booked my park tickets, right, I'm sorted. And actually maybe trying to dip in and out of sort of the Disney space and trying to maybe get some planning tips from us. We'll try to help. But if you can direct us, how we can help you, we are more than willing to do it because I think we have a kind of passion for that kind of thing as well. And we might save you a few quid along the way too.
Yeah.
I think we've all been there for that first trip and then come back from it going, oh, I can do this a different way.
Yeah.
You learn from it. That first trip is definitely an experience. And I think we should round off our 2023 with something Bob Iger probably doesn't want us to talk about. Because it's probably the underperformance of a lot of films at the box office in 2023.
Don't tell everyone, Ben. Don't tell everyone.
Yeah, and I think when they say underperformance, that's probably from the views of comparing them to films previous, like Endgame. A lot of films are still, I think, performing very well in the cinema, but a lot of people aren't going to the cinema as much as they were before COVID. I think there's that big change.
Yeah.
How many things, and I'm looking at all the films, and yes, I think we've seen all of these at the cinema, from Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, Guardians of the Galaxy 3, The Haunted Mansion, Elemental, The Marvels, Wish, Indiana Jones, Dial of Destiny, and The Little Mermaid. Are any of those of your highlights of the year?
Ben, I always get slagged off for not watching any Marvel films, right?
Yep.
Did you add any to your tally this year, John?
I'm willing to bet John's about to say he hasn't seen a single one of those.
No, it didn't. But that whole list you've just read, I've not watched any of them either, which I think is even better.
Dial of Destiny was my
It's
favourite.
just like,
Any reason why, John? Or is it just because you don't go to the cinema? Because
I don't go to the cinema. I don't go to the cinema. Like I've said before, where I live, we've got a single screen cinema, right? And I think the last time I looked, they're still showing Paint Your Wagon.
Is it a flea pick, John?
It is. It's the most uncomfortable place to go. But we've been. There's new plans on the go, and in the meantime, anything that's on the telly is usually sport. But I think we covered that in that was January 2023 show.
That's 22.
Out there,
That's 21.
yeah.
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 I
Don't
think
do
the problem
films.
for us is that we can't get to a cinema very easily because of combination of bad public transport and bizarre working hours and things.
And no cinemas in the very near area.
Yeah.
No.
But
I think a lot of it is price.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we've been looking at price of tickets for our local cinema. An adult ticket is £14. And when you're thinking, okay, a family of four, you're looking easily £50 before you've even added on popcorn and drink.
Okay.
So what becomes like £10 a month for Disney Plus, where there's a wider choice. Yes, I might have to wait 60 days, 90 days for it to appear on a streaming service. I don't have to go out and go to the cinema and spend £60, £70 for a family to watch it.
Yeah.
I can watch a film at home that's included for £10 that month.
That's a good call. That.
My
And
favourite
actually,
cinema-
is that maybe something that I know we keep talking back, we hark back to sort of the lockdown days of the parks, etc. But that little period of time in which Disney Plus became everyone's go-to place, and loads and loads of people subscribed to it, and then they made that. I actually think it was quite an error to then, instead of releasing cinemas, to release straight to Disney Plus. Has that maybe altered people's sort of whole thing about going to see a film? Let's just wait until it's on the telly. Lots of people have bought one of them big massive tellies. I haven't got one, I hasten to add, but that fill the whole wall of a room.
Yep.
And so you get that cinema experience at home. It's a little bit more comfortable than going out. You don't have to pay over the top for your popcorn. And again, sort of society's kind of moved on. That in the blink of an eye, we've kind of it's kind of moved on. And will it actually go back to what it was? And I really struggle to think that it will do. And I think
you're right, John. I think we've gone too far away from that. And it doesn't help that cinemas are having to raise prices because they're not having as many people through the doors. They've still got to make ends meet. They've still got to pay the bills. They've got to pay for everything. And I think it's really good that a lot of films now are going cinema first, and it should always be for cinema first.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's one of those things. It should be your choice. Am I happy to go and see it at a cost straight away, or shall I wait a couple of months and then go? I'll catch up with the latest Marvel film then. There's normally 3 a year. There's lots of films happening all the time. There's lots of remakes. There's lots of like sequels of like Indiana Jones, Little Mermaid, where there's going to be a second one. There's a lot of things, and it's interesting to see how every time that Disney do their earnings call, you see the parks are doing incredibly well.
Yeah.
And then they talk about the films and they talk about the TV shows, and the parks are propping up the company. The parks are the main focus, and I wonder whether there's a lot of focus going forward that the parks are going to get huge investment.
I think another thing that affected films last year was, of course, there was the writer's strike and there was the actor's strike, and that put a pause on a lot of development.
Yeah, a lot of films have been delayed
Looking
from like
forward then
next year.
I
into
think
this year will have a knock-on effect.
Yeah, I think in 2024 we're going to see much more of the impact of that. Yeah. Whereas the strike has come to a conclusion, and thankfully, things have gone back to normal. I would actually say that the impacts are going to be felt probably even in 2025, which is quite bizarre. Yeah. Quite bizarre to kind of talk about in January 2024. We're talking about the following year, but
it's a bit like in COVID when the parks stopped for 6 months.
Yeah,
and it's taken 18 months to 2 years to get back to where they were, and we're going to have that with films. It's
totally will. And also, don't forget, cost of living for everyone has gone up, and that includes production costs, marketing costs, distribution costs. And the 6 month pause and a strike, there'll be renegotiation of contracts, and so all of those things that were stopped will take some time to get going again, and some of them won't get going again until maybe the end of, in my world, Q4, so the end of March 2024 this year. I don't know how the film industry does it, whether they do their quarters by calendar year or whatever it looks like. We do.
No, they do it by tax year as well, because
they do it by tax year. So
usually in April.
We may well not see a lot of activity in terms of production until April. And so John, absolutely, I would say middle of 2025 onwards, we're still going to feel it, assuming it doesn't happen again.
Yeah, but the other thing as well to think of is like if a film was mid-production, the actual content, the continuity part of that, and to try and get the bits that you haven't filmed to tie in with what has been filmed must be the most incredible headache, because you've been out of the studio for so long. Some studio sets will have been dismantled. You've got costumes that maybe characters have even changed it. It doesn't even bear thinking about.
No.
What if the contract wasn't for the film, but the contract was for like 90 days, 3 months, 6 months?
It's crazy stuff. It really is.
Most of the contracts are for the production of the entire
actual
unit.
movie. Yeah.
But for exactly reasons like this, for when there's delays. But
and then people might have moved on and be in the middle of filming something else,
right?
Because that production is shut down and they've had to earn ends meet. So
I don't think we can really underestimate the impact, to be honest with you. And I think that will be over the next year and a half to 2 years.
And it will be very surprising when everyone goes and looks at the local cinema and go, there's not many films on this year. I feel like we're going back.
And that's not because we're criticising people's right to strike. No. I think
we totally support them, and I totally understand their opinion, because there is so much change going on in the industry, especially with the introduction of AI, and
absolutely
that's
those roles need protecting.
Absolutely.
So, is there a case for saying films that didn't do particularly well first time round for whatever reason, give them another go, send them out in cinemas again and see?
But if people are in it, are you going to spend that same price to go out there again?
Absolutely not.
Not if it's already out on Disney Plus.
Yeah. Yes, it's very interesting.
It's really difficult.
Give John the second bite of the Marvel thing, but
I'll tell you one thing, and it was a really brilliant thing that came up over Christmas for me. Wizard of Oz, right? Absolute classic of a film. Quick quiz around the whole family. In what year was The Wizard of Oz made?
Ooh.
1930.
Well, it's like 1932, 1933.
I was going to say 39, but I could be wrong.
Well done, Ben. There you go. Yeah, 1939.
Oh, okay.
1939.
Right. Yeah. But you look at some of the graphics, and you look at some of the things that were created as far as that, and you think how far ahead of the time it was. And so we had this conversation, because I don't go and watch films, but I get boring when I find facts out about them. But I actually love to go to the cinema and see The Wizard of Oz in an absolutely massive full screen, just because I want to just completely take in what happened as we talk about computer generated graphics in this era, but these guys were
like physical theatre that's involved. It is amazing.
Practical effects.
Just like I've watched it with a completely different mindset, knowing that that's 1939. Really, and
that takes me back to the Disney 100 exhibition, John, with all that section with the physical sound effects and the physical effects that they had involved. That is exactly how Wizard of Oz was created. And you're right, go back and watch it with a completely different lens. It's really interesting. And I think there are a number of characters.
I think that is what Jill's getting at. Is like and what
we went to see E.T. at the cinema.
What Disney do
an event of it.
What Disney do best is go back to the vault.
Well, just going back to Jill's point, during the Disney 100 celebrations over in this country, I don't know about anywhere else, they re-released several films from one from each decade back at the cinema.
Really?
That's
did they?
Umbrella.
Yes, the advertising of that.
Cinderella.
There you go.
It wasn't very well advertised.
Well,
we went to see Beauty and the Beast.
The only reason we only really knew this was on was because when we booked, I'm going to book the cinema, and it was Beauty and the Beast is on.
We had
Let's go see it.
Cineworld tickets, so it was like, what are we going to
is
do?
it like Saturday morning jobs?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
kids hour on a Saturday morning. They would be
Yeah.
Okay.
But it wasn't
they did them-
advertised.
they weren't advertised though.
That's such a shame.
If they weren't
That is a
advertised very
shame.
well.
And over Christmas, our local cinema will re-release Christmas films.
I think you can watch Die Hard and Home
So
Alone.
Die Hard, Home Alone, Muppets
That,
Christmas Carol.
that wonderful Christmas film, Die Hard.
Die Hard. I know.
It's a Christmas film.
They do like a different one each week
That's very cool. I
through
didn't know
like
that
November
either.
and December.
Yeah.
So
Excellent.
I mean, I don't know how much people are going to see these films, but they've been doing them every November and December for the past couple of years.
That sounds brilliant.
So they must be. People must be going to see them.
Yeah.
So Disney could re-release them, and they might get something from them. I mean, I'm not sure whether Mulan, for example, brilliant film, was released during COVID, went straight to Disney Plus. Not sure if I would go and see it if it was re-released at the cinema. I would possibly be tempted
The
to.
new Mulan, I probably
The new
would.
Mulan.
Yeah, I
It
probably
would
would
be
actually.
good.
Yeah, it's great on big
Yeah.
screen. Yeah.
I think it's one of those things. It's
So it's
because you've got the accessibility of it being on Disney Plus. Does that then remove yourself from watching it again in the cinema? And I think that's where people know that, do I want to go and pay that extra when I'm already paying for it anyway? That's what's a difficult thing. So 2024 is going to be very interesting to see how. I think talking of 2024, there's a lot of stuff that I think, well, for us to be excited about, and it's only in a few days' time that it's the end of park reservations and the return
Hurrah!
of park hopping.
Unless you're an annual pass holder and want to go to Magic Kingdom on a Saturday.
Yes.
yeah.
Just
And
so.
also just to keep it complicated.
I'm not gonna swear on behalf of
Because
Annual pass holders everywhere.
annual pass holders.
annual pass
That
holders
must
have
be-
good to go days as well.
Yeah, but it's just like
You can still only have 5 days booked. You can still only
Yeah.
have 5 park
Reservation.
days booked out, which is ridiculous if you're an Incredipass holder. And you can go every day of the year, but you want me to tell you which 5 I'm going to go.
Yeah.
There's no
The only
reason
way
to-
around that is to book on site because then it gives you it per stay.
Absolutely, but there's no
that's-
reason to do that.
No, there isn't.
You're singling out annual pass holders again.
And
Welcome
not
to the
giving them
club,
anything in
man.
return.
Listen, Tokyo has no annual pass holders now. They've completely stopped them.
Yep.
So
No annual passes and no sign of them ever coming back.
There's a lot of change, and I think for most people coming from the UK who are going to be on a 14-day ticket, it's great that you
Yeah.
don't have to pick each day of that I want to be in this day
Yeah.
for Magic Kingdom,
Yes.
that day for Epcot,
Yeah.
Hollywood Studios, and also that flexibility now that you can go and book a breakfast reservation in Epcot, and then
Yeah.
decide, you know what, it's 10 o'clock, I'm going to Magic Kingdom for the rest of the day.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Park
I
hopping
didn't.
is
I
returned as
didn't
well.
want to have to be in Epcot to
Until
do
2
Garden
o'clock.
Grill, and then
Yeah.
great, I've got to wait around 4 or 5 hours afterwards.
Oh, yeah, because there's
And then-
nothing to do in Epcot for 4 or 5 hours.
It's not.
Wasting my time.
I know. But yeah, it's nice that your
I know what you
plan
mean.
is flexible and it's you can then fit in what you want. But also talking of
Yeah.
food, the dining plan is returning.
Yep.
yeah,
Something that we actually thought we might never see return.
Yeah.
And I know it is paid, which will be very interesting when we look at updated menus and see how much it's worth, whether the actual
Yeah.
cost. Because I can just imagine it's going to be spreadsheets and calculators over the next
I think there will
month
be.
or so, where everyone's thinking, okay, I'm going to book a trip. But are we going to get, the past few years we've had Disney dining credit offers. Are we going to get a dining plan offer in April this year? Can we
So
see it
what's
for
been the
next year?
offer for 2024 so far? It was the room credit, wasn't it?
The room credit.
And there's is a nights free at the minute. I think
Yeah.
for there's a
about this time of year usually.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's
it was
usually well
dining
advertised.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. I don't know if we'll get dining credit or not.
I don't think so. I
It'll
also
be
think
interesting if we
current-
do. Can that
Yeah.
be used against a dining plan?
yeah.
probably not.
Probably.
I think there's been a lift in hotel pricing, and maybe that is a sign that we are maybe on that cut. It depends on numbers, doesn't it? I think we're on the cusp of when you're coming from the UK, that free-ish Disney dining plan was absolutely made it into being a must do.
There's so much food and brilliant service, and
and actually, if you're not putting people into restaurants, yet you're employing servers, you're employing chefs, and people aren't filling out the restaurants, you have to go back to what was there before. It was never free. Let's not kid ourselves. It wasn't a free service. You were paying for it in with everything else. But it was a lovely way of actually going and exploring so many different restaurants that you would never ever be able, doesn't matter if you're on staying for 5 nights on site, you wouldn't never go and eat in a Disney dining place 5 nights in a row.
No. Because,
as we've said before, there's other cheaper options if you're off site. If you've got a car, you would go, even if it's just going to McDonald's on the 192, just to save a few.
John, I think you're the only one that does that.
no, I don't do
I've
that.
been to McDonald's in America before.
Ben, even I don't do that. So let's say something.
I think it also depends how you holiday as well. So some people, I can see Peter pulling a face, which tells me that he's about to say, we eat in a dining restaurant, and we sit in a sit-down restaurant every night.
We've done that on trips.
We've done that.
And we've done that, but I've not done that on a 5-night trip. I've done that on a 14-day trip or longer. But on a 5-night trip, would I do that? Probably not, because I'm trying to cram so much more in. So I was there 5 nights in December. Anna and I had 2 table service meals in total. 3, because we had a breakfast at Topolino's that we added on day 4 for the morning of day 5. I wouldn't do a table service meal every day on a 5-night trip, just because of the time involved, even if I'm on my own.
Yeah.
Especially when you've got several days as well, when you counter that into it.
If I'm there for 2 weeks, then I might.
I would never go for 5 days, Claire. What the point I was trying to make was the old free Disney dining plan only applied if you were staying on site for stays of 5 nights.
5 nights and more. That's right.
And that was the key part of it. And actually, even if you stayed on site, for 3 nights, you got.
But that's where the number crunching helped, John, because it ended up being cheaper to stay for 5 nights and get the free dining plan than it was to stay for 3 nights.
Spot on, and pay out of pocket for 1 restaurant.
Right.
There you go.
You do have to do your mathematics. You have to get the spreadsheets out.
It's good though. It's good because
fun.
Actually it's you against the company.
System.
I like that. Yeah.
If you are only doing a 5-night trip, then it might be worth staying in a moderate hotel, getting the quick service dining plan.
Yeah.
So I haven't had the option I haven't had any option to add it onto my trip in April. I'm keeping an eagle eye. I'm also only paid a deposit, so I'll keep an eye on the US offers as well, because I might. I can always cancel it.
And especially as you've got an annual pass holder.
Keep an eye out.
You annual pass holder.
I think also there are different considerations in that. It'll be interesting to see whether the paid for version feels like you get bang for your buck.
Yeah.
Because we've paid for the previous version way back and we've made it work, but we're very much in the minority. And I think if you are not big eaters, or if you are largely plant-based, for example, you're not going to necessarily get value out of the money that you pay for a paid version.
Oh, do you know what, Jill? They don't half charge for some of the plant-based foods.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
They charge the same, some of the things. If you took the vegetable Wellington at Steakhouse 71, I think it's like $34.
I wonder whether is that now them trying to position the menus to make the dining plan feel better value.
No, I think it's recognising that more people are changing their diets and therefore bumping that up a bit. More. I have a real issue with being asked to pay over $25 for a plate of pasta that I could cook at home.
Yeah.
And that's not just in Disney. That's in general in life.
Yeah.
So I think that, it's a plant-based options are not the cheap option anymore, unfortunately. They kind of got you over a barrel twice.
Yeah, more and more places are doing prefix menus as well.
Yeah.
Like Space 220, for example, is 3 courses. So how does that work with the dining plan? Do you get the 3 courses? Probably.
But that might work out quite well. That might work out in your favour for that particular restaurant.
I think there's always been restaurants, even with the previous one, where actually ones have worked out so much better than others. So I will eat there twice that trip and avoid this other restaurant. And it's better to pay out of pocket.
Breakfast, when they used to do it, breakfast at Be Our Guest used to be an excellent use of the quick service dining credit.
Yeah. And actually, character breakfasts still are a good use of a dining plan.
When you get breakfast is an average of $50 per person.
I think they're now 47 for adult, 37 for children. Yeah. In most,
it all depends whether
it depends where it is. If you're in, if you're in Tusker House or Crystal Palace, it might be a little bit more than that. If you're in Cape May Cafe, it might be a little bit less than that. But somewhere around the mid $40 for an adult. For a buffet breakfast. Topolino's is a little more than that, but you're paying a slightly inflated price.
Just something, guys. I think we're going to talk about this an awful lot more throughout the whole of this year.
Good idea, John.
Because I actually think that this is going to evolve so much, and we will have either a podcast show, probably a podcast show. Or even Wafflers, probably Wafflers Wednesday as well.
Could easily be both.
Because once things change and once things sort of move on, and we get a clearer idea, we love to share new information, and we try to get there as quickly as we possibly can. So if it's not in the monthly podcast, it'll be on a Wafflers Wednesday. But as Ben said earlier in the show, join us in the Waffles Arms, our lovely Facebook group. You will get the information from that as well, and it will help you plan your trip.
There's a few more changes happening in 2024, and one of them is Genie Plus. Apparently, this is Disney's wording, that they're going to make it easier for people to use Genie Plus this year, and I don't mean that easier. I don't think it will be like they won't reduce the cost, but it looks like there's going to be the return of being able to pre-book the days you have Genie Plus.
I'm disappointed, Ben. I thought you said you were going to go back to paper. Paper passes.
Sorry, John.
It'd sort the whole thing out.
Wouldn't it just?
No, I don't want all those paper cuts.
Well, the free souvenirs.
Exactly.
Do you know what? Actually, I think they need to add the option on the app to just randomly assign to a guest.
Yeah.
And
definitely.
I don't think
that's
randomly,
the biggest missing
you might
bit.
end up assigning it for. You might end up assigning Rock and Roller Coaster to a 3-year-old.
Yeah, but when you buy Genie Plus, or when you're in the park and you filled out Genie, they know the age, they know the height, they know.
Yeah.
No, they won't know the height. A 5-year-old could be tall enough for some rides,
Yeah,
or
true.
another one might not be.
Good point.
I love that.
To be honest,
because actually,
I'm imagining gifting Jill Tower of Terror.
But actually, if you had like a friend code, on the other hand,
that would be
code
so
into each of
cool.
the apps,
You could just share it.
then you
That
could
would be
just go.
so cool.
I've got this Genie Plus. Would you like it? Let's swap friends codes, and then I can transfer it over.
Yeah.
Quick,
I
right
think
to Disney.
That'd be lovely.
I think that's something
way of
that.
doing it.
Rather than running around swapping magic bands around.
I also don't think getting up at 7 a.m. to book your Genie Plus or your Lightning Lane for the day, I think is going to be one of those things that actually not everyone wants to be up that early or buy Genie Plus at midnight for their next day in the park.
Yeah.
It's something, and anything towards that, I think is going to make it a lot easier. I'm just looking through the other things that there's one ride that Disney have changed.
That's all
was
totally this year.
going to be out in late 2024, but is now 2024. So
I'm keeping my fingers crossed that means it's going to be opening towards the summer.
Yeah, because
then
you're probably going to
I'm going in September, and I'll be able to come.
And that's
Right.
the
Tiana's
thing.
Bio Adventure.
don't do a water ride in winter because actually it's not a good thing if it's a little bit chilly and things like that.
I can't imagine doing it in December. I really can't.
No,
but,
it'll get slated if they do that. It really would.
But the other reason why I think they've changed it is because Disneyland has Tiana's Bio Adventure opening this year, and I'm wondering, but that closed about 3-4 months after the one in Walt Disney World.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering whether it's that gap in time, and from what I've seen from pictures of the park recently, it's not taking them too long to make the change. I think we're either looking at a late summer opening.
See, this is where we need to wonder, what do we mean by late summer? Because late summer to us is early fall in Walt Disney World.
That is true.
So
But they've said summer before and it's been end of May.
yeah,
So
and they've said fall. They've said spring before, and it's been November.
Yeah.
So
Is it
Disney.
I can kind of understand why they've dropped the
Yeah.
fall part of it, because actually
yeah,
that could be any time.
yeah.
It's summer in
I'm
a
really excited to
laugh
it, though.
kind of way, isn't it? Like,
I was just having a quick look on my phone in the photos that I took from the queue line of Big Thunder Mountain.
Yeah.
Off the top of what was Splash Mountain, and the amount of theming that they've done. And then Anna and I rode the railroad twice round, actually.
Yep.
And the amount of work that's going in round the back. I think that it will be, summer, late summer, September.
Yeah.
Maybe ready for I think they'll announce the date at D23
Yeah.
and open
Or
it. Maybe.
I wonder whether you might get previews.
maybe.
Because
I think they'll announce the date at D23 and it'll be fairly shortly after that.
yeah.
But yeah, this,
D23 this year is early. It's in early August.
yes.
Yep.
And it's going to be at a new location. They're going to have. They've got more space, but normally they can have up to 6,000 people in the auditorium. It's now 20,000 for their big.
Really?
Yeah.
A
Wow.
lot of people.
So
That's a lot of people.
that's over.
Excellent.
Does that
No,
mean
that's
big
enough.
to
Hey, I'll
me?
tell you what, I'll look for my D23 invite then. That'll be sorted.
But to me, that says they're going to be announcing something big.
I think they're going to have to. I hope so.
To have that many people in,
Yeah,
Do you think they're just announcing? Do you think they're just announcing?
20,000
Is that-
people, 20,000
I was gonna
people
say.
grumbling sounds more.
exactly.
Just tomorrow
You know
we
what I mean?
get out
It's
live.
20,000 people.
It's 20,000 people to talk about more blue skies thinking. That's it.
They need to put something in concrete this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, 20,000 cupcakes is going to be very expensive.
They won't be giving out any other free prints on your way out now.
No.
Or if they do, they're going to be that size.
Which means it definitely,
And not
they
very
definitely need to
exclusive.
announce
No.
something big.
I think that
The pressure is
Yeah.
on for them to do.
Yeah.
I think we've had we've said this for the past two D23 ones we've reported on that there feels like there's always something missing.
Yeah.
And whether that's just we have high expectations of what we want, which generally probably is, but I think there's going to have to be some answers of what's happening going forward, because there's there's a lot of change in Disney. Obviously they've got a new CEO. There's a lot of changes, but also where Walt Disney World is, there's a lot of changes happening up the road.
That's what I was about to say.
2025 brings Epic Universe and Universal. So what are Disney going to do to respond to that? Or are they just going to not announce anything and just let it happen?
So
They
I
have a
don't think
habit
they
of letting
can't.
things happen.
Yeah, I'm.
They need to
Yeah.
announce something. And I can understand not wanting to announce something as a definite when it might not happen, like the Spaceship Earth refurb and the Mary Poppins ride in Epcot, because they had to scrap those due to various reasons. So I can understand them not wanting to repeat that and say, yes, we're definitely going to be doing this, and then 2 years down the line not be able to. But it's 2 years down the line from when they started.
I think
giving us
Becca,
ideas,
I
so-
actually think we are at that bit. We
point.
will actually. Are Universal actually going to blow Disney out of the water with this, and have that massive investment, which Disney have not got either the finance or the Imagineering people behind it to respond quickly enough? Because as I think, Universal, when they say they're going to do something, They do it very quickly. When Disney say they're going to do something, as we saw with Tron, it seems to take forever. It will. I actually think this year will be fascinating to just, instead of expecting, let's stand back and watch and let's see. Let's just observe from this side of the pond and from the other side of the pond, but actually just see exactly how serious they are. And I actually feel that in some ways, the budgetary side of things is going to be the one that leads it. And I'm really struggling with that with Disney at the moment, given some of the things I've heard about the Paris expansions, etc. Yeah, the Frozen expansion takes up so much budget that they can't go any further with the other planned stuff. It becomes very interesting. Does that go to Florida? Does it go to Disneyland? And do we end up with Disney just accepting that we're going to have to take a hit in 2025? A load of people are going to go to Universal. Let's tighten the belt. Let's not plan for anything, and let's move on afterwards. Which is kind of where we were. Which we going back again. Jill, you mentioned it before, wasn't it, about our series of shows last year, where we talked about the history of the previous century. We're that little bit where Universal had put together the Harry Potter stuff, and Disney didn't have anything in the here and now to respond with, and they just let Universal just have that. There you go, but we'll come back and we'll have you. We'll have you later. It's knowing your audience
because
and knowing
Disney came back with Avatar, and then they followed that up with Toy Story Land and Galaxy's Edge. So it's just that cycle, isn't it? We're going to go through that. And I think what is interesting from Universal's perspective, when we all book trips to going to Orlando, we all go there for an average 14 days, maybe a little bit longer. How many days do we spend at Disney? How many days do we spend at Universal? By having an extra park and more places to stay, where do we actually fit that in? But also announced very sort of late in 2023 was that Universal are exploring plans of a possible theme park in the UK, which I think is going to put possibly even more pressure on Disney, because if there's going to be a resort or a theme park, why am I going to go to Disneyland Paris if something, or it's one of those things where, as we've said before, that cost of living is increasing. What's going to be better value for me? Do I need to fly? Do I need to drive? Do I need to get the train somewhere to a park? Or I can just drive and spend a few days. I know British weather isn't great, but nor is it in Paris.
What I can say is that it definitely won't be a water park or a water ride in whatever they come up with.
Are you banning ponchos?
I ban ponchos anyway. Well, they won't be needed because there probably won't be one.
There's a job for you at the start of the water ride, right? You basically turn around to people. Poncho. Off. No way. Not allowed. Doesn't matter. I think that was brilliant.
I'd be very interested to see, and I think this is the thing, when a lot of things like this happen, we know how many rumours there are, and it's so easy, because I admit, when we heard the mumblings of this first appearing, it was like, no, that doesn't sound right. We've heard all this before, that there'll be someone like Disney or Universal come to the UK. Why would they do that? The weather's terrible. But it's one of those things. Actually, it's a different type of resort. They could do something, it's interesting to see. And Universal wrote a letter, I think, to local residents as well as local businesses, that they are exploring the area. They've chosen a piece of land, that they're exploring the opportunity they would like to do this, and that they'll keep them updated every step of the way. And I think that's what we're going to do, is let everybody know every step of the way that when Disney announce something official, we will talk about it. And I think that's the thing, and that's why I can't wait for D23 this year.
It'd be fascinating.
14,000 more people in the auditorium for Disney to go, yes, we're going to add more stuff to Disneyland Paris. Universal doing this down the road. Wouldn't it be great if Disney take all these blue sky ideas they've had for the past few years and actually make them a reality, and say, yes, Universal is going to be opening Epic Universe in 2025, but this is our plan. This is our 5-year plan, because Disney have done that previously. They will tell us 5-6 years in advance what we're planning, what that park is going to be, and that's what gets us all excited, knowing that in a few years' time we will go back and experience possibly Zootopia, lots of other things that may appear, and just keep moving things forward. Thank you for tuning in to the Great British Mickey Waffle. We hope you enjoyed this episode and it sparked excitement for the coming year. If you missed any of our previous shows, don't worry, you can catch up by downloading them from your podcast app of choice or watching them on our YouTube channel. We also have our live Wafflers Wednesday shows on YouTube every week at 8:30pm in the UK, so be sure to join us for even more Waffle. If you want to stay up to date with all things Waffle, be sure to follow us on social media at GB Mickey Waffle on Facebook, TikTok, Threads and Instagram. You can also email us at waffleon@gbmickeywaffle.com with any comments, questions or ideas for future episodes. I think we've got more ideas this year than what Disney have planned. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what we've got coming up this year.
Oh, too right.
I love hearing from our audience and appreciate your support. If you enjoyed the show, please consider leaving us a rating or review on your podcast app. And don't forget to share the show with your friends. So thank you again. And there's just one thing left to say.
Happy New Year!
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Yeah.